Good afternoon. This is Isaac Benjamin and Arya Schwartz for WNBA Insider talking about tomorrow's one-game playoff between the Seattle Storm and the Pheonix Mercury. Arya, we're dealing with faces of the game. We're dealing with Diana Taurasi. We're dealing with Sue Bird, Brittany Griner. Stewie's coming out as one of the big stars. This is really, a quick little plug. If you want to listen to our video about the other game, we were talking about the young stars really taking over. This is the opposite. This is bet on bet. Two teams that have really, frankly, disappointed a lot of people with expectations for this year. Walk me through what's disappointed you about both of these teams.
I'm going to start with the Pheonix Mercury because I don't think a lot of people look at them as disappointing as the Seattle Storm. And I got to contradict that because, Brittany Griner's had a great season, averaging 21.9 points a game, somewhere around 6-7 rebounds a game, and obviously she's averaging like 2 to 4 blocks a game because it's Brittany Griner. But Brittany Griner has really been doing it all. We've had one or two flashes from Diana Taurasi, who I don't want to, jump to any conclusions, but this is not a good season for her. Not a good season at all, let's be honest. By her standards, she's having a horrible season. And then you have your backup point guard coming in Leilani Mitchell and leading your team in assists. So I think there's a lot of confusion as far as what roles people should be playing. And we all expected Diana Taurasi to kind of step it up a little bit bigger this season with the role shift, going back to shooting guard and no longer in the point guard position. But we just haven't seen it. Going over to the Seattle Storm, Brianna Stewart having a great season, had a slow start to it, averaging 19.19. She was coming back from a slight injury. She's also leading her team with 8-8 or 8-7 rebounds a game. But Sue Bird...
8-7.
8-7. Sue Bird has been consistent. She has been averaging 6.6 assists a game. She's been dishing it, setting records here and there.
She just hit the record last game of the season for most assists of all time. Girl knows how to dish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she knows how to dish, and she's cooking. All right, she's feeding her players, and the underrated thing is going to be Jewell Loyd. I think in this matchup, you're going to have Stewie and Brittany Griner. Obviously, let's assume BG doesn't get in huge foul trouble, and Stewie's able to cook. That matchup is going to be amazing to see how they kind of shift outside of the arc. Brittany Griner's been shooting a lot more or playing a lot lower. So the question of really how those two players are kind of going to samba around the dance floor, okay, and really how they're going to be because each player is going to try and pull the other outside of their element, all right?
Right.
Griner wants Stewie down low because she can control in the blocks. Stewie wants to pull it outside the arc. And the exact opposite when you're going on the other side of the court. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, you're going to have a great matchup of Sue Bird, the vets taking on, Sue Bird versus Diana Taurasi, the vets really clashing heads. Two Hall of Famers, arguably two of the greatest of all time. But then let's focus. Jewell Loyd and Danielle Robinson. That's going to be the key matchup, all right? Jewell Loyd has shown that there are certain games where she can take over and be the big-name star and have you saying Stewie who and Sue Bird who, which is mind-boggling to say. We have not seen that from her counterpart over there with the Pheonix Mercury. If the Mercury want to win, you're going to have to see role players. It can't just be DT and BG winning this, and that is what we've been saying all season long. Where is the team? Not the stars, where is the team?
So let's stick with the stars for a second because that's really the big names. Griner she had a career high this year, 21.9 points a game. We all know her defense. We all know how she protects the post. Does Stewie have the defense to at least restrict Griner when she's on?
I think that's an interesting question. Typically, we know Brittany Griner struggles a lot more with larger size players. Now, obviously, Brittany Griner is one of the largest players in our league, definitely height-wise. But I think it's been proven that if you really challenge her down low and say you're not getting any easy buckets, she struggles to consistently show up. So I think the key is really going to be Brianna Stewart needs to know that she's going to be more important covering on defense than she is on offense. They have the ability, she's going to get some points here and there, but it's more important for her to cut down on BG's scoring than it is for her to be dropping, 35 points this game.
Can they win without her scoring that many?
I think so. I think definitely. You know, Sue Bird's shown she can feed the ball to anybody on her team. If you're asking me, Seattle definitely has a more complete roster, which is why I think Seattle handedly wins this game.
Really?
Handedly.
We saw Phoenix last year. We saw when they get hot, especially in this new system, that stars can win. Why do you think it's so handily? You know, if DT and Griner are playing great games, do you really think they can blow them out?
I think so, because here's the thing. DT obviously is going to show up and have her best game of the season tomorrow night. I think that's obvious just based off of who she is. You know, the spotlight's on, she shows up. Brittany Griner doesn't have that same repertoire of the spotlight's on and I'm going to show up big. Brianna Stewart has that. You know, Sue Bird has that. And I just think it's going to get to a point where Diana Taurasi is going to have to sit out at some point. And we saw the team really, really struggled without DT on the court. There was a couple games where she rested, you know, just because she's getting a little bit older and they wanted to get her, you know, keep her feet fresh. The team struggled so much that I just don't think, if you can't keep Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi on the court all the time, and, you know, you have these players from Seattle, this very deep bench from Seattle, I think Seattle's going to be doing some similar things that we saw the Mercury do last year, where we had high expectations. During the regular season, they didn't meet them. Come playoff time, they really surge. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Seattle beats the Mercury, move on, and I think they probably win the next round too.
How does Phoenix prove you wrong? How does Phoenix win?
I want to see Phoenix get back into Phoenix. You know, I don't think there's been a point really this season that I've looked at them and I've said, okay, that's a team that's contending. I've seen, you know, spurts, streaks, and we all know basketball is a game of streaks, but I've never seen a streak that showed me, okay, you know, Brittany Griner can carry this team, Diana Taurasi can carry this team. In the past, they've worked together to carry the team, and I haven't seen, you know, that movement, that fluidity between the Mercury. If I see within, and you know, Mercury, and I'll say this, they're a team that I think early on in the game, you can get a sense of how they're going to play for the whole game. They're not a team that's going to come out in the beginning, put up donuts, and then all of a sudden streak like crazy and pull off a crazy fourth quarter win. That's not them this season. It's whoever shows up in the first 5 minutes, that's who they are for the game. And, I mean, for the sake of TV ratings, I hope they show up, and I hope we got a triple overtime. I just don't see it happening.
How do they shut down Jewel Lloyd?
What?
How do they keep Jewel Lloyd from being a major factor?
Get her the ball. And you know, tell her to shoot. Just say shoot, shoot, shoot. Feed her the ball, because you know, having the three-headed monster that I spoke about in our last podcast, our last video about Dallas, the Storm's three-headed monster of Stewie, Bird, and Lloyd, it's just so hard to cover, and I don't see, you know, Pheonix Mercury really showing up and saying, all right, we're going to shut all three of them down, because that's what you need to do. You can let one of them go, but if you want to win this game, if you're Phoenix, you need to shut all three of the stars down on the Storm.
Do they have the defense to play shutdown defense in this round and then immediately on Sunday?
No. Flat out no. Hot take. Hashtag hot take.
That's a perfect way to end. Let's touch base after tomorrow's game and see if RA is on point.